enough. Look, I've got the inheritance of God with me. And you know what? They walk into a dark place where there's no food. There's no life. There's no sustenance. There's nothing that's going to feed them. There's nothing that's going to sustain them. And they walk away from where the house of God is and where the life of God is, the kingdom of God. And they walk out into darkness where there's no food. But you know what? They had an inheritance, didn't they? So they walk out, and instead of living in the fullness, they spend their inheritance for life. They begin to, because outside of the house, everything costs you something. You owe it. You have to earn it. And what did they step back into? A works mentality of everything I can purchase, everything myself. Until you realize, after you've done it by yourself, there's nothing left. And now, here's this boy. Here's this boy living in a place. He gets a job feeding pigs. And it says, this dude is at the end of his rope. This dude is so broke, he had to get a job serving pig farmers. Okay? I don't know what he got paid, but he was getting paid so little, he was wishing someone would give him pig food. Like, you think it's bad eating pig food? This dude was wishing he could eat pig food. This dude was a next level down. I don't know what he was getting paid, but apparently it wasn't even enough that he could afford pig food. There is no food in that area, in that arena. When you are living apart from God and you walk away from God and all His blessings, there's no food in it. You want to take your sonship and squander it? You're welcome to do so. No one's going to stop you. The Father said, if you choose to walk away, you can walk away. But He says, there's nothing out there for you, son. There's nothing out there. And you'll spend everything trying to achieve what you once knew, but you'll have nothing. And you'll find yourself in a place where the pay is so little, you won't even be able to afford pig slop. And then it says, he came to his senses. He came to his senses. He was like, I remember my father's house. I remember my father's house. He says, I'm going to return to my father's house, and I'm going to tell him, I don't deserve to be your son. Anybody ever hear somebody say something like that? Anybody ever say it themselves? Okay. I don't deserve to be your son. Make me one of your servants, for even a servant in your house lives better than your sons. Right? And the son says, because of what I have done, I don't deserve to be your son. Do you hear the contradiction? Because of what I've done, I don't deserve to be your son. His son was saying, it's all about what I do. It's all about what my hand does. It's all about my works and my ability to stay saved. It's all about my ability to save myself, because I was trying to come into this kingdom and I'm trying to stay in this kingdom. So I want to be returned back based on my works. I want to come back into your church, not as a son. I want to come back into your kingdom, God, as a hired servant, and I will work for you. I don't deserve your love. Man. But the father sees the son even when he was a long way off. And the father has pity on him, has compassion on him, and runs to meet him. Do you know what that means? It means the boy wasn't even home. The boy wasn't even home yet. And the father said, that's my son. That's my son. He was looking for him. He was longing for him. He was saying, I know the day is going to come that he's going to come back around. I know he's going to come to his senses, and I'm going to be ready for him. And the father ran to meet him where he was. What does it mean? That even his own efforts of coming home were not fulfilled in and of himself. His own effort was completed. The task of coming home was met by the Father. It was fulfilled by the Father. The Father said, I will not make you come all the way home. I will meet you. I will fulfill this. I have a plan for you. It's not about what you accomplished, son. It's about what I did on the cross. It's about what I accomplished. It's about your birth. So he says to the Father, he says, while the son was far away off, So the father ran and hugged him and kissed him. The son said, "Father, I have sinned against you. I am no longer worthy to be your son because of what I've done." And the father said, "It's not about your actions. It's about birth. It's about birth. Are you still my son? It has nothing to do with your actions. It has to do with your birth. Where were you born, son? Remember where you were born. It's not about your ability to save yourself. It's about your birth." Okay? So he says, we're going to throw a party. We're going to put a ring on this guy's finger. We're going to give him back his authority. Okay? A ring was a signet ring. It was a symbol of the household. And what the son could actually do was the son could go to the store, buy something, and pay for it with his ring. He would stamp like a piece of paper or something and say, "I bought this." Okay? And the father's house would pay the bill. That ring gave him full access to all the resources the dad had. If he went out and bought another farm, and he says, "I'm paying for it with this ring," and they went back to the dad and they said, "Hey, your son just bought this farm," the dad would be like, "No, he didn't." And they'd say, "Look, we have this ring." And the father would say, "Okay, I pay for it." Just like that. He had full, unfiltered access to the resources of the dad. But you know what? He may even pawned it somewhere along the line. He got rid of his ring. He got rid of his signet ring that gave him full access to the house. And the father says, "Get another ring. Put it on his finger. This son has full access to my house." He says, "Get a new robe and put it on him. Clothe him with son garments, not with the garments of a servant, not with the garments of a slave. Serve him, clothe him like a son that he is. Make him look like a father, like he's part of my household." It says, "And put new sandals on his feet because he had worn everything out." You think the slaves got sandals? I don't think so. I think the sons had sandals. I think the sons had shoes on their feet. And the father is restoring him back and saying, "Listen, son, it wasn't about what you did. It was about where you were born." It's all about where you were born. That's why Jesus said it was so important that Nicodemus be born again. He didn't say it's all about works.
I have a question.
Yes.
Where is this in Nicodemus?
Nicodemus is somewhere in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John.
I can get it.
Okay? Google knows. Google's going to be in heaven because it knows scripture like the back of its hand. Okay? Just so you know. But no, we won't need Google in heaven. We'll just have we'll have Delvin. "Hey, Delvin, what you talking about, Nicodemus?" And anyway, so Google it. Where does Jesus talk to Nicodemus? And it'll get you there. So the other son, so they throw this wild party, and the other son never left home. Never left home. What a great kid, right? Never wasted nothing, never squandered anything. But it's so interesting what this son says. Are you ready? The older son was in the field. He came closer to the house. He heard the party. The servant said, "Your brother who came back, your father has killed the fatted calf because your brother came home safely." The older son was angry, so his father goes out to him. The son who never left home refuses to go back to the house. The son is jealous of the freedom because the son says this. Understand, listen to this mentality. Listen to the way this son thinks. He says, the older son said to his father, "I have served you like a slave. I served you like a slave." And the father's going, "You're my son. You never left, but you have the same mentality. You have a slave mentality. You have a worker mentality that you want to earn this goodness. You want to earn my favor." He said, "Son, what are you talking about? Everything I have is yours. Everything that is possessed." He says, "Look around you. It's all yours." He says, "Well, you never killed a fatted calf for me, not even a small goat." But we never heard that in today's language. Anyway, but the son says, "You never did that. It's not fair. It's not fair what you did. He doesn't deserve it." He said, "Dude, it's about sonship. It's not about works. So even the one that stayed in the house was working like a slave, trying to earn his father's favor, trying to earn. And he said, son, you already have all my favor. He said, you could have killed a calf at any time. It's all yours. I didn't just not kill a calf for you. I gave you everything. I gave you the farm. He says, but your other son who wasted all your money on prostitutes comes home and you killed the fat calf for him. He said, son, you were always with me. All that I have is yours. We have to celebrate. That son was dead, but now he's alive. I want you to understand that passage. That son, in the story, he never dies, but the father calls him dead. The father calls him, he was cut off. He had rejected the benefits of the kingdom. Does this make sense? Okay? You see where I'm going with this? He had rejected the benefits of the kingdom. He was still a son, but he wasn't even ready. Like he wasn't entering into the benefits of the kingdom by choice. Didn't he leave by choice? Didn't he leave by free will? He chose. He said, he got up one day and said, Dad, peace out. I can do whatever I want. And I'm going to go. And then works mentality came back and began to make it that he wasn't able, began to discourage him and discredit him, and said, you're not good enough to enter back into the kingdom. The father said, it's all about sonship. It's all about birth. He said, this son was basically dead to me. I think he would have went to hell. Does that make sense? He had turned his back on the father, and he wasted everything and pursued the things of the world with all of his heart. Until he was literally in a place where he was so broken, he was wishing he could eat pig food. But this story is about the heart of the Father that says it's all about your sonship. It was all about your birth from the beginning. It had nothing to do with your actions. It has to do with your birth. When we go out and we tell somebody about Jesus, and we ask them, are you a good person? Most people say, yeah, I'm a good person. And we say, well, if you got to the gates of heaven and God said, why would I let you in? And what would you tell him? And they're like, oh, I did lots of good things. I did lots of this. I did lots of that. I helped people. I gave money away. I prayed for the people. I went to church sometimes. This, that, and that thing. They have a lot of good things that they did. But you know what? It's not being a son. See, the problem with the Old Testament was it told you what you must do to look like a son, but it couldn't make you a son. That's why it says that Jesus, who came, he didn't come to do away with the law. He came to fulfill the law so they would actually be perfected. So he says, all those things in the Old Testament that if you would have followed the letter, all the way to the letter, man, you would have done everything the Bible said. It says it still wouldn't have been enough to make you a son. You had to be born again.